I've created a folder on my desktop with the name of text, and I'll open that up on VS Code. I already went ahead to create 3 files, the index.html, main.js, and styles.css. I've also successfully linked my styles or CSS to my HTML file, and added some comments to the main.js to sort of guide us on what we'll be doing in this video. So in the HTML file, we'll be creating what I'm trying to do here is we did in the course introduction to JavaScript, we were asked to write a function that takes 2 numbers and returns the sum. So we're doing that, but now we'll be creating an interface for that to work. So I'll go ahead now in my form, in my body, sorry, I'll create a main element, and then we'll create 2 inputs tags that will take numbers, and then a button that when clicked will give us the result. So I'll go ahead now to create an input with a type of number. Yeah, so I'll select that and I'll do that again. Input for number would have 2, and then would have a button. Yeah, that's correct. We have a button for that. So the type is number. We could give it a first number. Sorry, that's not wrong. This should be second. You can use the same for the ID. And here we'll give this a class name of button. So let's put an add. So for this tutorial, we will not be concerned about styling. It's mostly just about showing us how events are being handled in JavaScript. So I'll go ahead to save this file, and then we'll head over to our main.js. In the course we're learning now, which is DOM manipulation, we have a section that teaches us how to select elements. So the first one and the most basic one we usually do is to get an element by ID. So I'll be selecting these inputs using their ID. Oh, sorry, forgot to change this. This should be first number. First number and second number. So we'll go ahead to select the inputs using their ID. So we'll have const first number. I can call it first num, or I'll write it in full. First number will be equal to document.get elements by ID. And the ID will be first number. So let's the ID should be first number. So let's see. Yeah. So we'll go ahead. Const second number equal to elements by ID. We'll have second number. So we've selected that. So we'll be using query selector to select the button, which has a class of btn. So we could say const button, or let's be specific. We'll call it an add button, and this will be equal to documents.query selector selector, we'll give it a class name of btn. So for selector all, this can be used to select all elements that match that certain criteria. It could be a class name or a div. So let's say const, sorry about const numbers will be equal to, I should have started with small letter. Const numbers will be equal to documents that selector all. So in this case, we'll be selecting, as you can see, it's already highlighting what is going to expect. So we can select all. Okay, we could select all inputs. Yeah. So that we can be able to get all the inputs we have on the page. So I just noticed that I'm yet to add my so do scripts source, say main .js. So for this, we need this. Let's do console.log to be sure everything is in order. Right. Save that, and let's go ahead to open this on live server. So we can see the two input fields that take the number and the button. So let's check console. You can see the right. It's from the main JS on line 14. So that indicates that everything is working properly. So now let's get to handling events. So we'll head over to the main.js. Can get rid of the console message, and now we can add events listeners. So we'll be adding an events listener to the button so that on submit we can perform the mathematical operation, which is the addition of the two numbers that the user is supposed to fill out. So for that, now we've already selected the button here in our JavaScript, which is the add button. So we'll do add button dot add events listener. So which events are we listening to? Which events do we want when it happens for us to run a certain code, or a certain line of command? So the events in this case is click. So when that button is clicked, we want to run this function right here in this code block. So the function we want to run is the addition of first number and second number. So in this case, what we'll do is this, we'll do add button to add events listener, click, then want to do first number. Let's create a variable called results. Results will be equal to first number plus second number. But in this case, we're actually selecting the elements. But to get the number itself, that is an input field. So what we'll be targeting is the value, not the element itself. So say first number dot value and second number dot value. So we can say let's try to log this. Let's try to log results and see if we get any errors. So let's head over to our live server. We have, let's say 1 plus 3. Let's say add. Okay. Okay, can I read addEventListener? Okay, so we're getting an error message saying we cannot read property addEventListener. Creating the adding the event listener to the add button, which is this button right here that we're going to use to print this number. So what I've done here is this. We've added an event listener to the add button, and the event is click on click. I can remember on the course you see where it's noted that when you're using JavaScript, you do not need to use on click. Click alone is all you need. So we are creating a variable called results, and we are using the JavaScript number constructor to pass the value of these input fields. That's the first number and the second number, because it's the value we want. The same goes for the second number, and then we are console logging this result. But we will take it a step further now. We will display the result of this submission, of this addition, sorry, of this mathematical operation. We'll be displaying it on our page. So let's go ahead to create a new div. Okay. No, let's create that using JavaScript. So on the main.js, now we'll have the value of the result. We can say const. Let's create a new div. Const div will be equal to, okay, let's say create elements. Let's create a new div. Yeah. So for that, let's select this main. Let's give it a class of, let's give it a class of main. So we'll select this main tag, and I would like to show you guys something now. Let's use the query selector plus main equal to documents dot query selector main. So now we'll say main dot add append child. Sorry, we want to append this div as the child of the main. So okay, but before we do that, let's give this div the value of the result. So we can say div dot inner HTML or inner text. Let's use inner text in this case. Inner text will be equal to, let's say, okay, let's use the template strings. We'll use so we'll select the first number dot value plus let's select the second number dot value, and then we'll set it to be equal to the results. and then we're appending the div to this main. So let's see if that works. So right here we do 1 plus 5 add. Okay. Inner text is not a function. Let's use inner HTML. Okay. It's surprising. This oh, sorry. This is not a function. I'm supposed to set it to be equal to this. So I think that should solve our problem. So let's say 1 and 2. 1 plus undefined is equal to 3. So I think there's a problem with our second number. Yeah, I spelled value wrong. So I think that should take care of our error. So this should be 2 plus 2. We have 2 plus 2 equal to 4. So this is one of the ways you can actually handle events, create a new element, and then display it on the DOM. So what I want to do now is this. I want to show you how you can also change styles. You can actually change the styles of an element from your JavaScript file here. And I think one of the assignments for this week will also contain that. So what we'll do now is this. I want us to add a condition to this, that if this result is, let's say, greater than 10, we want it to be green. We want it to be green in color, and if it's in minus, okay, let's just make it simple. If it's a positive result, that's if result is a positive value, it will be in green, and if it's a negative value, it will be in red. So for it to do that, let's create a class of, let's say, positive, and we'll just set the color to be red. And then we'll create another value for the negative. Oh, sorry, I mixed that up. The color of negative should be red, and this should be green. So we'll save that and then head over to our main.js. For here, what we'll do is this now. We'll add an if statement. You can also use the ternary operator in this case, but okay, I will do it both ways. So for this, we can say if, okay, let's just use if and else. If result, yeah, if result is greater than 0, or this is greater than or equal to 0. Yeah, we would want to add div.class name to be equal to positive. But if it's not, then div.class name will be equal to negative. So let's see how that works. Let's head over to our browser. Let's do -1 plus -1. As you can see, it's red in color because the value of the result is -2. So let's try to select positive numbers and then add. You can see it's in green because the value is in positive. And as you can see, we also have the results are displaying. This is because we are creating a new div every time we click this, and we are adding it to the main. So let's go and explore on our browser now on elements. As you can see in our main, we now have a div with a class of negative and a div with a class of positive. So we're actually appending these divs we are creating to this main body. So if we were to add another one, another div will be added. But let's say we want to just show one result at a time. So we just want to place every this thing that we do. For that, we would not create the div when the button is clicked. We would have a div here. We would have a div. We'll create a div here already that will be empty, and we could give it a class of, let's say, results. So we can use that to select it. You can head over to the main and say const results is equal to documents dot query selector. So let's say results. Okay, but yeah. So for that, now we've selected that div. All we can do now is this. Instead of creating a new element and appending, okay, let's comment that out. Also comment out this. We don't need to append since the div already exists in the main tag. What we'll do is this, we'll change this to results, and then, oh sorry, I already have a result. Let's say a results div. Yeah. So change this to results div, and then also results div, results div. So we're still adding this result to the div, this div results that we've selected here, and we're also adding the class name to it. So when we save this now and head over to the DOM, and let's do this, add, you can see it's also red because the value is a negative value. And if we also increase this to maybe 5 and add, you can see it replaces the value, and we just have that one value that is there. So that's how you can handle events in JavaScript. It's how you can change the styles of, you can change it using class name. You can also target this now. You can also say, if it's negative, let's say results div dot style dot, sorry about that, dot style dot let's say height. You know the height. Okay, let's do font size. Font size to be equal to, let's do 40 pixels. So that's if it's positive. So let's try a positive value. This, as you can see, font size has increased. So using dot style is also another way of targeting elements, of targeting your HTML elements. This is, you put dot style to the elements after selecting it, and then you select the property of that element you want to change, and you set it equal to what you want. But it should be noted that you can see JavaScript generally uses camel case. So font size, if we were writing this in CSS, we would have written, that should be, okay, for positive, sorry. It's for positive that we're adding that to. So this would be font size. But in JavaScript, we do not make use of this hyphen. So JavaScript, it turns to font size instead of font size. So we will not be using the same values as CSS. Anything that has two names like font size, font weight, maybe margin top, something like margin top, max width. Margin top will become margin top in JavaScript. So I think that's also something I felt I should point out, so that, but if it's one word like color, then it's totally fine. You can just write color. So I think that will be all for now. We've learned how to select elements and how to add event listeners to what we want to do. So thank you guys, and that will be all for now.